Previously on F1.
Is that Petrov up into third place? He's going to have to go through the escape road. That was only ever going to be contact. Sebastian Vettel leads the 2011 Formula One World Championship.
This is Formula One.
Good morning and welcome to Melbourne for the start of the 2011 Formula One
around. It promises so much. Can it deliver this? She'll have a mega year.
Hopes and dreams in here. All of these guys thinking, perhaps.
The number one doesn't make me 2-3 tenths quicker.
It's a game of catch me if you can.
Ahead of the game in terms of
Lewis Hamilton leads an all-British lineup at McLaren.
Alonso should have been the champion this year.
Not every driver's going to get it right all the time. So
exciting for us that we need to be the quickest car.
They're behind Red Bull. It's as simple as that.
new regulations for this year.
A lot of new things happening.
These are the movable rear
DRS as it's called.
Pirelli are back in Formula One.
tyres. Formula One. Pretty exciting race.
Fascinating to see how things unfold.
Will it make Formula One more exciting?
I don't know what's going to play out.
Find out what happens when the lights go out.
Finally, racing is underway in 2011. Vettel streaming away at the front. A perfect race. We've seen no mistakes from him whatsoever, and the challenging conditions. I don't think anybody's going to beat him. There's a story, isn't there? Oh, and look at that.
It's a wonderful way to start the year.
Red Bull's first Australian victory. Pretty ominous, isn't it? Performance from Red Bull.
And just like that, race one came and went. So the 2011 Formula One season is underway, and if ever there was a reason to forgo a Sunday morning lie-in, this is probably it. Yesterday, just the blink of an eye separated the cars on track, and here, in the blink of an eye, the heavens can open and chaos can ensue. Welcome to the 2011 Malaysia Grand Prix. And 2 weeks after Red Bull got their title defence underway with a win in Australia, it's round two. And in case you were already thinking that the Bulls are so quick it's in the bag, just look at this season stretching out before us. In Formula One, anything can happen, and as someone once said, it usually does. Particularly here in Southeast Asia, a country where racket sports, badminton and squash are the national pastimes. However, one weekend a year, the racket is created by the engines as Formula One arrives for its annual battle with the track and the famous tropical climate. And in fact, for us standing here in the pit lane or the paddock, it's just as much of a battle. Eddie, we've been soaked here for the past 2 years. And if there's one thing that the weather creates, it's uncertainty. And if there's one thing that Formula One teams hate, it's uncertainty.
Well, each and every one of these teams here have every possible gizmo and gadget you can imagine to forecast rain, how the car performs on the track, all of those things. One thing they can't cope with is uncertainty, as you rightly say, and the weather is something that they have no control on.
And if it rains and they get it wrong, you wouldn't dream of criticising them, would they?
Well, it does. The great thing about it, and Bernie has always said he'd love to put sprinklers on every circuit in the world, but this may be his heavenly his circuit literally, in terms of sprinklers, but nevertheless it always gives a chance to the underdogs, and that's what is so exciting, because you have no idea how it's going to unfold.
Yes, no need for watering cans here, David. In Australia a couple of weeks ago, we were probably left actually with more questions than answers about this season. By the time the flag drops here, should we know a lot more about how you think 2011 will unfold?
Well, definitely. Melbourne is a temporary track. Track temperatures were unusually cold there. We have the same tyres available for racing that we had there, but of course track temperatures here in Malaysia are more than double what we saw there. So I think this is the first proper gauge of all the team's performances.
Yeah, 10% more humid than yesterday. If you were still sitting in the car and going racing, would you be expecting rain right now as a driver?
Yeah, you know, it didn't come yesterday when they were expecting it. Every other day we've been here, we've had rain at some point during the afternoon. So we've got to expect it today. It's a bit more overcast.
Yeah, I've got a sneaky feeling that in the UK, a few 100,000 people have gotten out of bed just to see Formula One in the rain, and it looks like the weather won't disappoint. Australia didn't disappoint, actually, Eddie. It was an interesting race. But such is the speed that Formula One moves, there's actually pressure on a number of teams already after this result.
Well, indeed. Probably Ferrari, for example, you know, 4th and 7th, I think that was a big disappointment. They would look so good in pre-season testing. But actually the one I think that stands out more than any, I do not recall Mercedes as a team not scoring points in a race. They scored nothing in Australia. They need to get their act together big time because it was a big blow for them.
Yeah, well, as you can see there, Sebastian Vettel won in Australia. He was in incredible form. He took pole position on the Saturday as well. He took pole position by over a second. However, yesterday it wasn't so comfortable. Here's Ted Kravitz with the qualifying report.
The early part of qualifying was unremarkable, except for this failure on the Toro Rosso. Sebastian Buemi's liberated sidepod, making for an interesting souvenir for someone. With that all cleared up, there were notable achievements from Lotus, who were just 4/10 behind the Williams and almost 2 seconds ahead of Virgin, and from the Hispania team, who managed to qualify for the first time this year.
I think it's not a bad result. We had some problems yesterday, we had some problem in the morning. For sure the team has to work hard for the future.
Michael Schumacher failed to make the top 10 for the second race in succession, but this time it was the car's fault. The Mercedes movable rear wing developed an aerodynamic stall when it was closed, leaving Michael with reduced rear grip.
Our rear wing activations that would get stuck basically. And finally, in the final qualifying run, that's what happened. So the car wasn't, unfortunately, drivable properly anymore.
Elsewhere in Q2, a good effort from Scotland's Paul di Resta, out-qualifying his teammate.
I don't think we were quite as far off as we thought we were going to be. So it's a good result. But tomorrow, you know, everything's to play for. And it's a long race with tricky weather conditions forecasted.
Before the final fight for pole, Q3 saw a good recovery from Renault. After this hair-raising suspension failure the day before, Vitaly Petrov and Nick Heidfeld managed to make the 3rd and 4th rows of the grid. Ferrari are suffering aerodynamic problems with their car that even they don't understand, and while Felipe Massa was only 7th, it was a massive performance from Fernando Alonso to back 5th. It's going to be a long year for Ferrari.
Being 5th, I think, is the maximum again of our possibilities at the moment. The first 4 cars are unbeatable for us at the moment in qualifying. In the race, I think, is much closer. So we did our job today, knowing that we must improve.
That left a thrilling final few minutes of qualifying. With Ferrari out of the picture, it was down to Red Bull and McLaren to slug it out. Jenson Button's tyres were past their best by the time he reached the last corner, and he was only 4th because of that.
The balance was pretty good, but the last sector for me, I just hurt the tyres a little bit too much, and yeah, back down in P4. But it looks like it's going to be a fun scrap tomorrow. We're a lot closer to the Red Bulls than I think people expected.
Mark Webber was next up, rebuilding his confidence after a disappointing weekend in Australia.
You always want to be a bit further up, but disappointed on the in-lap, not to have done better, but you know, I know over time that it's a long race tomorrow, starting on the clean side, so hopefully I can do okay there.
But Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel were a class apart. Hamilton was fastest on the first attempt, but made a small mistake at the penultimate corner when it mattered, opening the door to Vettel, who took pole by 1/10 of a second. Just a few metres in distance on the track, but a mile in terms of confidence, as Red Bull fight to hold back the resurgent McLarens.
Yes, boys, that's what I'm talking about. Woohoo! Woohoo! Thank you. Great job today.
You know, the guys back in the factory and here at the track within, you know, these 10 days really, even though we are overseas, they did a, you know, monumental job on curves really, and to get it into the car and working obviously was the key today. Without it, I think we wouldn't have been in front of the McLaren drivers today, so I'm very happy.
So if it looks a familiar grid, that's because it is. The same top 5 as Australia. Vettel on pole, followed by Hamilton, Webber, Button and Fernando Alonso. Nick Heidfeldt's an improved 6th in the Renault, ahead of Felipe Massa's Ferrari, Vitaly Petrov in the 2nd Renault, Nico Rosberg and Kamui Kobayashi, who completes the top 10. Michael Schumacher's ahead of the Toro Rossos and Paul di Resta, who's 14th. A lacklustre showing from Williams, just 15th and 18th for Barrichello and Maldonado. Heikki Kovalainen outqualifies Jarno Trulli at Lotus, while Virgin and Hispania make up the back of the grid.
And Ted has said that a few times in the past 12 months, haven't he? However, relief down at Hispania that they've actually made it into this race. They were within the new 107% rule in Formula 1, which means they take part in the race. We'll talk about that in just a second, Eddie, but let's focus at the very front. Exactly the same front five, as Ted said, as we saw in the first race of the season, but this time, critically, Sebastian Vettel ahead of a McLaren by just a tenth of a second. What a relief, eh?
Well, it is a relief, but actually I'd like to go back to where we were in Melbourne and just show you, I think if McLaren make the kind of start that they did there, they are going to be swamped going into the first corner. And I don't know if we're actually going... Here we are. Look, this is a tardy start. I think Hamilton, if he does the same thing, I know he made some change coming onto the grid. We're told that it was a clutch or something like that, but it's a much, much longer run to the first corner here, and you will have all those guys, Alonso as well as everyone else, Rosberg, they will be climbing all over the McLarens. They cannot afford to get it wrong here.
And it's incredible there, look, to see the gap that Sebastian Vettel pulled out in a couple of seconds. And it's worth reminding people at home that this was the Red Bull starting a race without the kinetic energy recovery system boost button. They now have that on the car, so they're going to be even quicker off the line here.
Of course they will, but actually McLaren, if they get it right, they have marginally a better boost button for the Kerr system. So who knows? I really do feel that Hamilton will want to make amends for last weekend, so don't be surprised if he leads into the first corner.
And you can see that we're getting close to race time here. This is Mark Webber's bodywork being taken off. It stands at the front of the garage, and the guys are going to go there and fit that, probably because we're standing here with a camera and the engine is on full show, and they're always a little bit careful in Formula 1 about showing too much. A quick one about the back of the grid. Happy to see 24 teams in Formula 1 this time?
I think it's a relief. Look, let's give Hispania a little bit of a break. They came here, I think their car actually is not that bad. And for them to have got into this race was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people because they were really very, very slow. And they shouldn't have been in Australia. They were very... It was a shocker for them.
Yeah, now the man who'll be getting into that car behind us will be keen to beat his teammate today for the first time in a while. And that's the way the old adage goes in Formula 1. Before you beat the rest of the grid, you have to beat your teammate. And so far, rookie Paul di Resta from Scotland is doing just that. 2 qualifying sessions in Formula 1 so far. And so far, he's beaten his teammate twice. It must be something in the water up in Scotland, David, hey?
Well, indeed, Jake. Just down here with Paul. And thing we were going to ask you there, of course, great debut, scoring points in your first Grand Prix. Somewhat fortuitous, maybe, because of the Sauber issues with their wing. But nonetheless, it must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we got the phone call a bit later on, but I think in general we're very happy with how we'd done in Melbourne, and we knew the strength of our car was reliability, keeping clean on the first lap, which we did, and getting it to the end in a position to grab those points if it was there.
We also just mentioned there that you've been in front of your more experienced teammate, Adrian Sutil. He really came of age last year after a first couple of seasons of maybe making a few mistakes. How significant is that? Is he telling any tales of traffic and issues with the car, or is that genuine form? You've got the pace on him.
Well, Adrian is very quick, and I'm certainly finding it hard to maintain the speed, but I am starting from the bottom. I am inexperienced. I'm trying to bounce off him and try and learn a lot. But I think yesterday was genuine. It was a very good lap I did in Q2. I built my way up. We progressed the car over the weekend, and that's what you had to do. It was best at that point, and I took advantage of it. Today, it's a long race. It's going to be very hot, something new to me. But again, just do what I've been doing and try and work my way up rather than starting from the top.
Oh well, you've probably taken on plenty of fluid for this hot humidity, but we wish you luck in the race. Jake.
Great, thanks a lot, guys. Well, Paul says there that he's starting from the bottom. He doesn't look like he's starting from the bottom.
I think he's trying to play himself very nicely in there. I mean, he's not overplaying the situation. He has done a remarkable job. What, six years since he drove a single-seater?
Yeah.
Yes, he is the current DTM champion. He looks a real class act, as indeed the other couple of guys who are certainly Perez and Maldonado. They look good. I think this is the first time we've seen 3 rookies that are really well capable of scoring points on a regular basis.
OK, good. Let's take a walk so you can see plenty of the pit lane here. And good luck to Paul di Resta. Keep your eye on him. He starts 14th for today's Grand Prix. But let's make our way down to Ferrari, Eddie. And while we do that, talk about Fernando Alonso. He starts 5th on the grid for today's race. He said that pretty much that's the best he could have achieved with this car. Now, we all thought coming into this season that Ferrari were the second best team in Formula 1 behind Red Bull based on pre-season testing. Between there and here, What on earth has happened?
Well, firstly, they must have rested on their laurels because they clearly were good. Now, unless they were sandbagging in a negative way, in other words, making the car look quicker than it actually was, which is probably of no value to anyone. So let's assume that they had a quick car in pre-season testing. Whatever has happened when it got on that freighter and it's up in the sky on that jumbo coming here and going to Australia, they've lost a significant performance. They look poor. It's just not the Ferrari that we're used to. They've put new people in place. Pat Fry's come from McLaren. We haven't seen anything coming from him yet to make us inspired that this car is actually going to be a great car.
OK, well, the car that you can see on your screens at the moment isn't really the car that Ferrari dreamt about over the winter, but the man driving it is exactly who the team were after. Last year was so nearly the perfect season for Fernando Alonso. As he told Lee Mackenzie, it's time to start making the most of 2011.
Abu Dhabi was the last race of 19. The whole weekend was not maybe good enough from ourselves. We didn't have the pace to be as quick as Red Bull. The start was not fantastic. The safety car with Michael and Sutil offered the possibility to stop for some guys, and they were surprisingly consistent with that tire for the whole race. There were many factors that surprised us.
I see you are doing your best, but really it's critical to pass it.
He really has to clear this Renault.
Use the best of your talent. We know how big it is.
Alonso's going to have to start taking risks. He's got to go for it now.
It was very sad. It was a disappointment race for us. We were close to the title and we lost it. We switched on immediately to 2011 because obviously we want also to forget as quick as possible.
Since then, there's been a number of personnel changes within Ferrari. How's the atmosphere within the team now? Do you see a difference?
We reinforce, I think, some areas of the team that we discovered that we were maybe weak compared to our competitors. On the track side, we know that we had to improve a little bit. Strategy-wise, maybe we were also a little bit down compared to our main rival. So I think the team is stronger this year. If it's enough to win title, we will see.
And when you got to Australia and we had a look at the times and things after qualifying and after the Sunday race, were you surprised by the pace of Red Bull, particularly, I suppose, Sebastian Vettel?
We were a little bit disappointed with our pace in Australia. We have to confirm if we really are that behind, because in winter testing, I think we were much closer to Red Bull. So hopefully Australia was one strange race, and here in Sepang everything back to normal.
Are you waiting for an update, or is this car able to actually take you to the top step of the podium?
We think that we can do good things with this car. We need to work. I think we need to improve the car.
Fernando Alonso, we know, will drive the wheels off the thing.
There will be some updates in the car constantly every race, but I think that's more or less the same thing for everybody. So we need to be clever in our developing of the car if we want to pass the people, but at the moment I think the championship is very long and we remain very confident.
In Red Bull, you've got Sebastian and Mark battling very hard. Does that spur a driver on? Would you rather be sitting beside a teammate that was maybe just, you know, fractions of a second off you?
It's true that we saw some fights and some close competition with McLaren drivers and Red Bull last year, but also I think here with Felipe everything were much closer than the final standings says. I think Felipe had been very unlucky with some occasions last year, and he lost a lot of points. Also in Australia, he was in front of me in the race, and then he had some problems with the strategy. So I think there is a much closer competition in Ferrari than what the people think outside.
You've won here a couple of times, but this is a track and a climate that demands so much from a driver, physically and mentally. So why do you think you adapt to it so well?
I love hot conditions, and when you start in a circuit in a good way, as I did in 2003 with the podium, with the pole position, etc., you carry on that good feeling with that particular circuit for a long time. And here in Sepang, for whatever reason, it seems to adapt also to my driving style. So hopefully this weekend we can do also good race here, because we need some good points.
Is this a championship that you could claim? Because I know you're desperate to get another one under your belt.
We are Ferrari. People expect a lot from us. That's a good motivation, but that's also extra pressure for everybody. We need to be calm, we need to do our job, and I think fighting with McLaren, fighting with Red Bull is not easy at all, and that's also a nice challenge for everyone here.
And the challenge continues today. We're here with Stefano Domenicali. We're very pleased that the team principal has joined us, and it's quite clear that Stefano is expecting rain during today's Grand Prix. You just have to look at the traffic light system that controls their pit stops just here, and you can see that quite clearly they're expecting that to get rather wet today. And actually a couple of raindrops fall on our heads as we mention it. Stefano, let's talk about today's race, regardless of rain or not. In pre-season testing, we were all saying, well done Ferrari, they've created a special car, they look like the second quickest team, and some of that speed from testing to here does seem to have evaporated. Are you scratching your heads a bit within the team at the moment?
Well, I think it's not a matter of scratching, it's a matter of finding what we should have and what we need to bring very quickly back on the track. Because for sure, I heard just the last part of the interview with Fernando. The champion is very long. We don't have to get the extra pressure. We need to recover what we already have on the wind tunnel, and we don't have it here at the moment. And on top, to try to achieve what it seems at the moment that Red Bull and McLaren has done better. So it's an extra motivation. That's the way to look at the situation now. The other things will not help the team to be where it should be.
Okay, well, David's noticed something that you think is perhaps relevant to Ferrari's lack of speed at the moment.
Well, indeed, we were able to see during qualifying the relative lines of the McLaren of Lewis Hamilton and then Fernando Alonso, and it's very telling through 5 and 6, which are two of the fastest corners here. And if we just listen to the engine note of Lewis, almost absolutely flat. And if you compare that with Fernando, he gets wider through this first left-hander and then listen in the middle of 6. Seems like a lack of downforce and balance there.
David, you're an expert, so easy answer, unfortunately, I have to say. The answer is easy. I would say that that's where basically you can see on the split time is where you really have the difference. And if you don't have the real downforce, then of course it's more difficult to keep the speed on the car, because with the same speed, one car can turn, the other one has to go straight. So that's the difference.
Fernando on that little piece, and I noticed very clearly, we are Ferrari. In other words, he's saying no one can be better or greater than Ferrari. Is this good enough, really, Stefano? People expect more.
It's not a problem expecting. It's for sure a responsibility that we know that we have. And take the example last year, after an incredible season, difficult at the beginning, fantastic up to the last race, and a disaster last race, it was a tragedy. But that's the way it is. That's the reason why I would say for one is Ferrari. And this is why we have this kind of responsibility. The pressure is always very high, and we need to keep it up. Otherwise, you don't do this job. And, you know, in this condition, Formula 1 is different from the past. You know, with the limitation, with the fact that at the end of the day, I would say 90% of the performance in the aero side of the car, we need to invest there. Is it correct or not? In respect of what is the future of Formula 1, in respect of what the manufacturer wants in Formula 1. I think this is a point that we maybe discuss for the future. It will be very important.
Well, your direct future is the next couple of races, China and Turkey. The stories that we've been hearing is that what you're being told by your information back at your base isn't the same as the times that the car is performing on the track. So I guess that's something for you to focus on. But in terms of the car, what can we expect to see on the car maybe in China or in Turkey for you to make this quicker? Because you've got plenty of Ferrari fans in the UK that are keen to know.
Yeah, I mean, not only UK, thank God. And I think that is, you know me, it's better not to say with the word, it's better to see with the facts. That's what I asked to my engineers. And of course, we have a program, and it's going to the right direction. And first step is to find back what we should have, and then to push in a better way what we should bring in order to close the gap that at the moment is quite important. But as I said, we have done only one race.
Okay, indeed we have, and very shortly we'll be doing 2. And yeah, we're expecting rain at the moment. It continues to fall. Your stats are telling you it's going to rain during the Grand Prix?
Somewhere in Malaysia, yes. I don't know if it's here or not.
It's always raining somewhere in Malaysia. It's whether it rains over the circuit, we'll wait and find out. But we've been told big thunderstorms to the east at the moment. But Stefano, thanks ever so much for joining us. I know you're always good to chat to us when you're going fast and not so fast. So thank you very much. Good luck today. And one thing that Stefano will be keen about is this new DRS system with his cars starting 5th and 7th on the grid. They need to do some overtaking, and that's exactly what DRS is all about.
You'll hear us talk a lot this year about DRS, or the drag reduction system. It's basically a driver adjustable rear wing. Using a foot or steering wheel switch, they lift this top flap by up to 40 millimeters. This reduces downforce, therefore drag, and increases top speed. As soon as they touch the brakes, it goes back down again. In free practice and qualifying, the drivers can deploy it at any time when they're not grip limited. In the race, if they are less than 1 second behind another car at a defined point, the system will automatically be available on the next straight. The idea is to create an overtaking opportunity without making it too easy. The system may well be refined through the season.
Well, I guess it's fair to say that overtaking wasn't revolutionised in Formula One in Australia, but Eddie, the way that it's set up here, and we can see the straight disappearing off to our right, we should get some more entertainment from the DRS this weekend.
You may actually get too much, because I think what we got was a lack of it in Melbourne. Here, the way you come onto the straight, it's a very slow corner onto it, almost a hairpin, which will actually exaggerate the use of the DRS, and you may actually get cars just overtaking because they have this extra little DRS system which gives downforce to the car.
And David, you noticed actually that Renault was setting their car up perhaps to not use too much of the drag reduction system during the Grand Prix.
Well, certainly in qualifying, if we saw Nick Heidfeld inboard, he was running heavily into the limiter in qualifying. So basically without the DRS, when you're running less RPM because you don't have the same top speed, then you can lose performance of the engine. So they've obviously taken a race strategy with their DRS. I don't necessarily agree that we'll see too much overtaking because we Formula One is always difficult to overtake. They still have the challenge of getting within 1 second within that braking zone. So it remains to be seen just how much we'll get.
Okay, well, one thing we do know is that the grandstand is filling up very nicely to our right, and if there's going to be a lot of overtaking, the overtaking is going to be here on this main straight with the cars using their drag reduction system. Plenty of Japanese flags as well, of course. Still Formula One paying their respects to the people of Japan at the moment. Right, time to move on, and we're outside McLaren. Lewis Hamilton has just made his way into the back of the garage, but he's not the only Hamilton that races cars, because as of last weekend, his brother, who has cerebral palsy and only passed his driving test a matter of months ago, decided that he too was ready to race. It must be something that runs in the family.
4 months ago, sitting at home thinking, I'd love to race. Thought it was just a dream, never thought it'd be a reality, and here we are today and he's racing a car.
It's not an easy championship, it's not an easy car. I haven't got much experience. The people that I'm racing are in their third year, sometimes in their second year, whatever. So I've got big, massive respect for them, and I'm just trying to learn.
I'm ecstatic, I think he did a fantastic job, and it's been a very interesting experience for me. I've obviously been to many races throughout my life, but not to support anyone in the family, and particularly my brother, who I'm very close to. I'm just incredibly proud, and I was just smiling the whole way through the race.
I really didn't believe that I would be able to do it myself. I started 17th and I finished 12th, so it's a good thing. At least I finished a race, and I need more time than anyone else does, so I'm glad I finished.
Well, congratulations, Nick. And Lewis is in the car gearing up for today's Grand Prix. He starts second on the grid, and we can see the people here taking their photographs. Anthony, this man is used to being in the glare of the spotlight. Has a driver, though, ever made his debut in motorsport with as much pressure and scrutiny as Nick had last weekend?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. But I think he did a fantastic job. I'm extremely, extremely proud of Nick. I think he's overachieved, and to be honest, he should be proud of himself as well.
And what was your initial reaction when he came to you and he said, Dad, I know I've only just passed my driving test, but I'm thinking of going racing and following my brother?
Well, my first reaction was no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But then he kept on at me for a little while, and I actually wanted Nick to get a job or go back to university, but he insisted, well, give me the opportunity to race, and I'll see where we go. So, but I'm pleased he's got the job.
University.
Yes.
Or racing cars.
Yeah, no.
Come on.
That's the difficulty.
That's exactly the difficulty. This boy behind us made the same decision as well. And you're now in charge of kind of three drivers, I suppose. You've got Lewis, of course. You've got Nick, who's racing in the Clio Cup. And you've also got Paul di Resta. You're managing him. So you're starting your global domination.
I'm not so sure about global domination. I'm just trying to help, young drivers who have what I think is perceived talent, achieve their dreams and their objectives. So fingers crossed that Paul will have a good season. And I'm hoping Nick's going to have a good season. And look forward to the future with Nick as well.
OK, success everywhere. Thank you very much. And you can hear now Lewis's engine that's turned on behind us. So I'll leave Anthony there and I'll make my way away from the car so that you can actually hear what I'm saying to you. So we've got the cars there starting second and fourth on the grid, but what about Mark Webber? Well, is he all at sea at the moment after a difficult end to 2010? He's been talking to Lee.
Mark, what a stunning location. This must be a fantastic place just to come, relax, clear your head, do a bit of exercise.
Yeah, enjoy the ocean here. I mean, it's a lot of memories for me growing up in this sort of environment anyway. So, you know, we lived about an hour and a half from the coast in Queanbeyan, but we'd always go down to the ocean. And yeah, back then I'd have my little Speedos. Mum banged them on me when I was about 11, and love the sun, love being in the outdoors. And so, yeah, I enjoy coming here in between races.
We've just come off the back of a huge weekend in Melbourne where every headline was about you and the hopes of a nation were on you. I mean, how much of a pressure is that?
It's a sort of bizarre week really, because obviously they go, you know, ballistic for probably 4 or 5 days of the year, and then there's a sort of lukewarm interest for the rest of the year. Obviously last year was a bit different because of you know, the championship going to the last race, but it's a busy week.
Webber's got no pace at the moment at all.
I think Mark will be massively frustrated.
Only 5th here in his home Grand Prix. I think he's going to be pretty despondent with that.
After the race, there was things which indicated that the car wasn't completely normal. Certainly hoping and looking to make sure that's my worst performance of the year in terms of pace, because just has to be.
So the last time we sat down and had a chat, it was just after Abu Dhabi. It was still very raw. You seemed a little bit lost. Have you had time now to look back and reflect and work out that last year was a positive season?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of positives that did happen.
Mark Webber, you have won the Monaco Grand Prix. Brilliant drive. Well done. Unbelievable, guys. Thanks very much. Brilliant.
Of course, it was very, very disappointing not to have won the championship. I was so close, but yet so far. It's the old thing. At the end of the day, didn't get enough points and didn't win enough races, and didn't happen. But I think that the victories that I had, obviously the amount of podiums, and even for that matter, I mean, you never like finishing second, but some of the second places. I mean, Brazil and Suzuka, obviously Seb and I pushing each other pretty hard in those races, and they were still good car races to be involved in.
Do you feel that in comparison to this time last year that you're a stronger driver, either physically or psychologically, after everything that you went through on last season?
I think that it can only help. Having had a year like that I went through, of course it takes a time and some reflection to get over that. Obviously, you know, the highs and lows, that's completely normal for a sportsman to go through those. So if it doesn't make you stronger, I'd be surprised. For sure, physically, fine. Mentally, yeah, you go through some tough challenges, and then you have to put those in the top pocket and think, okay, how do you use those to your advantage as a competitor this year? So yeah, maybe even last year would have been completely, you know, really, really shattered and mortified about, you know, what happened in Melbourne this year. But it's okay, there's the experience. Even at 34, you continue to learn, okay, how to deal with it, work with the guys, and, you know, chip along. So you never stop learning.
Indeed you don't, even in your 30s. So the pit lane is open, less than half an hour to go now until today's Grand Prix. Mark Webber, physically, he says he's in great shape. Is he still mentally recovering?
Oh, beyond doubt. I'm quite certain. Mind games, you know, you just can't admit all of what went on towards the end of last year and just forget about it. I'm sure he has sleepless nights to this moment and will continue to do so, but it depends on how he's able to cope with it.
7 races in a row he's been out-qualified by his teammate. Just give us an insight into mentally how difficult that is to keep your morale up.
Well, I think I was out-qualified more consecutively than my teammates, but it's tough because you go out, you deliver your lap time, you think, right, that was a great lap, you come in and your teammate goes a 10th quicker, and then you know that you've already felt that was your best lap. So how do you find that little bit extra? It's the difference between winning the championship and not winning the championship, and it's the thing that Mark needs to overcome.
Can you allow self-doubt?
I think that self-doubt is something that helps you gauge, you know, where you are and how you go forward. So, you know, this isn't about bravado. This isn't about no fear. You need fear to focus the mind.
OK, well, the question is Christian Horner fearful of what might happen today if his two cars come too close to each other? We've seen it in the past. What's he expecting from today's Grand Prix? He's with Lee Mackenzie.
Well, Christian, not long to go now, and I understand this is the first time that Red Bull have used cars in a race situation. So do you have any nerves about that before we start?
No, not really. I mean, the system's run well in practice and in the testing we've done with it. So, you know, it's earned its place on the car, and it's important that we have it operational here. So big effort's gone into it, and, you know, so far so good.
Sebastian was saying yesterday he wasn't sure if he would have secured that pole position without it. In fact, how surprised are you that with the pace of the McLarens?
Well, for sure, they've looked more competitive here this weekend. I mean, you know, the circuit, the temperature, there's several factors that contribute to that. So it was a really exciting qualifying yesterday, and I think it's going to be really tight in the race. So it's going to be you know, if it's dry, it's going to be a fascinating afternoon with the wet weather, with the possibility of rain. It's always a bit of a variable, a bit of a lottery on occasion. So it's going to be about getting the calls right, being on the right tires at the right time.
I've been accused of being a pessimist with my umbrella in hand here. What do your weather reports telling you at the moment?
I don't think it matters what they tell us. It's what's coming over the hill just behind you that, you know, the weather's fairly localised here. So, I mean, the weather stations are saying there's probably up to 60% chance of rain during the race. Some people are saying there's 30%. If you believe locals that say when the trees stop blowing that it's definitely going to rain, then it's going to rain in 5 minutes. So we've just got to react to, you know, what's going on at the time, and it's the same for everybody.
I hope it's not too stressful a day on the pit wall. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Well, certainly no stress for you at home. You can keep across all the action here from the Formula One in a variety of ways, courtesy of the BBC. If you press the red button during today's Grand Prix, you can enjoy the driver tracker, see whereabouts on the grid all the cars are. You can ride on board there as well, or log on to the BBC Sport website. The tweets, the news, the updates, you can also watch the race live. And if you miss anything, you can see it all for the next 7 days, courtesy of the BBC iPlayer. And all the joys of Eddie Jordan and David Coulthard in HD on BBC One HD. It's nice to be in high definition this year. Getting very close now to the grid walk. Interestingly enough, only once in the past 4 years has the pole man been leading at the end of the first lap here. Is that indicative of the way Turn 1 operates on this track, David?
Well, it's a very long run to the first corner, so getting off the line is one part of the job. The guy behind you can pick up a slipstream, which can be worth as much as a car length as well. The other thing is the nature of Turn 1. It's a very open corner, so there's a choice of lines that the drivers can take. So you're a bit braver on the brakes when it comes to running in there.
And having just seen Mark Webber, he starts third, his teammate starts first. If we go back precisely 1 year, Mark Webber started first, Sebastian Vettel started third, and took his teammate and went on to take the win, and Red Bull finished with a 1-2. So I imagine that might be on his mind right now.
Well, just my guess, and we're all in fantasy land here at the moment. I still would prefer to be on the pole position. The way young Vettel started in Melbourne, I think he means double business this year, and it'll be hard for anyone to take him into the first corner.
We're going to go to the grid in a moment, and Martin's going to be right in the thick of it all. And actually, the thick of it all is the right phrase, because this year, the midfield in Formula One is stunning. And we've got Paul di Resta 3 places behind Michael Schumacher, who was knocked out of the pole position shootout by his teammate yesterday. That must have been a little bit nasty for him.
Yeah, well, it's never nice to be beaten by your teammate. You know, even if you're 15th in the grid, as long as your teammate's 16th, you can take some pride.
Yeah, sadly for Michael, his teammate isn't behind him. But whereabouts is Martin Brundle on the grid? Let's go down and join him right now. I think it's umbrella rather than sunglasses weather at the moment, Martin, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's dry at the moment, though. It's just starting to spit rain a little bit. 100,000 people up there and around and about this magnificent racetrack. They're hot, they're sweaty, but at the moment they're dry. And under this 0.8 of a mile grandstand that runs down the last two straights, this lot at least should remain so. Now, you know, when you first have a new baby or you're going for a picnic, the clobber you have to put in the car when you're heading off anywhere. Well, look at what Force India have brought to the grid for to service the car of Paul di Resta. Now, the first thing we notice is there are a lot more tyres here, of course. They need an option should it suddenly bucket down, and well, drizzle is not a word I would imagine translates in Malaysia, because it only rains in stair rods or not at all. Paul di Resta has just jumped out of his car, so we'll try not to hit him with the camera and find out how's the track out there, Paul?
Yeah, it doesn't seem too bad. I mean, there's just a lot of system checks on those installs there, just getting everything charged, all your cars ready to get off the line, which hopefully we can use like we did in Melbourne.
So your out lap is about getting that system fully charged up then?
Yeah, it's just about understanding it and seeing what you can do at the start. You know, we're just trying to simulate as much as we can. hopefully the weather will hold off, because I think in a dry start our car system seems to help us a bit more than others.
Now you've got 2 sets of the harder tyre, compound tyre available, and 1 set of the brand new soft compound tyres. You've got good straight line speed. You must be pretty confident.
Yeah, I think we can be. Our tyre dig was a bit more than we would have hoped for the other day, but our qualifying strategy was to save a new set of the option to try and use it to our advantage in the race. We do have 2 sets of the prime. It's really just dependent on how we see them lasting and where we see ourselves at mid part of the race, what strategy we choose. We have a few defaults.
Now, have you watched some starts here on the video just to see the traffic pattern? There's a long run down there, isn't it?
I had a bit of an idea. I spoke to DC, the fellow Scot. He's been giving me a few pointers. Yeah, I mean, I think turn 1 isn't too much of the issue. It's turn 2. But, you know, as I say, there's not too much you can predict. It changes every year. I think it's just about keeping your nose clean and seeing where you are after the launch.
One quick one. This is race 2. Are you somewhat less nervous than 2 weeks ago?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I know this one physically is going to be much more demanding. So I'm interested to see how the hard work I've put in over the winter is going to hold up. But in terms of the way the strategy works, yes. And we just see what we can do from what we have.
All right, good stuff. Good luck. So top rookie on the grid then. And as I say, there's plenty of... Look at the dry ice here that they've got, that they blow into the radiator ducts to keep they want to get the core temperature of the car down as much as they can while it's sitting here on the dummy grid, as it were. And you can see it's just pouring out dry ice. Looks like a dodgy nightclub, doesn't it, with at the moment down there. But all of those devices, generators to keep these tyres, even the intermediate and full wet tyres, have some blankets on them and temperature. So let's wander down the grid and see who we can find and have a little poke around some of these cars. Now here's a car that's going very well, the Toro Rosso. Look at this. This is the big undercut that we're constantly talking about that really helps the airflow through to the back of the car. It's just a work of art. It's beautiful, isn't it? And this car is really working well. So Toro Rosso with a solid car underneath them is Michael Schumacher standing here talking to his engineer Mark Slade. I doubt we're going to get much of a response trying to interrupt that, because Michael looks as if it's a lecture at university, and he's about to get doorstepped for a photograph here anyway. And I'll just give it 10 seconds to see if we're able to have a quick word with Michael. I won't stick the microphone in there because that would be rude, and we're never rude on the grid walks. So I don't think that looks like it's going to be a lecture that goes on. So Michael then very much still talking to his engineer. We think, I mean, he's in good shape. He's got a lot of straight line speed. He's got new tyres available, having not got into the top 10 quali. But I think the tyre degradation on that car is particularly high. Can't see Nico Rosberg on the grid at the moment. These guys have been preloading litres of fluid, and it's a big problem in terms of getting that balanced up before they go out onto the track. Let's see if we can get Vitaly. Vitaly, quick word. Your car looks very fast, yeah? You should be in for a good race here.
Yeah, definitely. Our car looks very strong. I think race will be very, very interesting because you doesn't know what to expect from the weather, and also you doesn't know what to expect from the tires. So I think it will be a great race.
Now, you've done very well here in GP2 racing. Do you think it will help you now you're here in a Grand Prix car?
Definitely. I know some tricks around the circuit, and also the rain can help. So we will see.
Would you like it to rain?
Doesn't matter really. I will be more enjoyed the nice race and pass some people.
Okay, thanks a lot. So wandering down, here's his teammate Nick Heidfeld. So the Renaults look pretty strong all the way through. And what's this little entourage? Right, we'll dive in here so we can find going on here. I better get a bit thrown. Bernie, nice to see you. Welcome to the grid. Hello, BBC. Martin Brundle. This is the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Sorry to dive in, Bernie. What did you think of the first race back in Australia?
Good. No, looking good. The champion's looking good. Good crowd here. Things are looking quite good. I'm very happy.
You don't want the teams to go to a new turbo engine in 2013, do you?
Well, if it sounds like the current engine, I don't mind. It's the noise that I want to hear.
You want them singing out in the bouncing off the grandstands, yeah?
Absolutely.
All right, good stuff. I think he's about to lose his party there. Right, let's move on. Who else can we find then? How long we got left? Because I've got to get up there to the commentary box and it's about a 6-minute walk, and I've got to think of something to say to open the show en route. So what I'd like to do, if he's on the grid, and he's not, is Jenson Button, unless he's standing over on the side of the track. But let's just have another look at the back end of this McLaren, because they've reverted to what they were using back in Melbourne that was so sensationally good. And you see this exhaust pipe down there, that one there, that is the trick. Feeding that on the outside where the lads do it, that energizes the back of this car. You've got a great shot of the rear wing here where you can see this is a fast car. I think McLaren have a tremendous car for this Grand Prix, and we'll see. Tim Goss here, one of the designers. Tim, is your car fast enough to win this race? It certainly looks like it to us.
Yes, it is. Yeah, certainly. I mean, we showed in qualifying that we're as good as a match for Red Bull now. Very, very close in qualifying. I think if Lewis had pulled out perfect lap, then he could have matched Vettel's time. So race pace, I think if you look at the Friday race pace, then two of us were pretty equivalent. I think it's all going to come down to the weather, tyre degradation. That's what it is. I think the two cars are about a match for each other.
There are 4 cars on this grid that don't want it to rain, I'd imagine. You two and the Red Bulls.
Yeah, quite clearly. I mean, if it rains, then it's going to mix things up. But you know, I dare say we're all going to be fairly well prepared for it. Just keep watching the radar and hope we make the right calls.
All right, good luck. McLaren say they're hoping to make the right calls to beat Red Bull. It's going to be a mighty fight.
Thank you, Martin. Enjoy walking back to the commentary box and thinking of something to say. Interesting to hear Tim Goss's answer there. Very quickly, yes, we've got the pace to win this race. And the first thing I was told by McLaren yesterday was, Red Bull have got the one-lap pace. We've got the race pace. This will be fine.
Well, Tim, I mean, you know, you just see glimmers of arrogance, and that's a great sign in sport, isn't it? Because people to say that, they really have to mean it and believe it. And certainly Tim believes it. So that's a big change from the pre-season testing, and certainly even a bigger change from Melbourne. These guys at McLaren, they have done a sterling job here, and they look confident, and they're going to take the fight to Red Bull, make no mistake.
Do you agree they've got the pace to win this race?
I think it may be a race or two too early. I still believe, because I do, if we remember and go back to the qualifying, I still believe that Red Bull have an extra set of soft tyres to call upon if they need them, which will be new. I think McLaren were a bit nervy in that qualifying and did use the extra set of tyres. I think it's just slowly in Red Bull's favour, in my opinion.
OK, well, Sebastian Vettel will like hearing that from Eddie Jordan, and Sebastian's with Lee McKenzie.
I guess just went to the
and just as we heard him, we lost him. We'll try and get you Sebastian Vettel in just a moment, but even seeing him walking there with Lee, he is such a confident young guy in Formula One at the moment, and that's what comes from pole position after pole position, win after win.
It's a mixture, isn't it? When you get to that level, it's so assured, it's confidence, it's arrogance, it's the knowledge that he can be champion again because he was champion before. And when you get all of those little things all adding to the melting pot, he is super confident. And it's going to take a very, very talented team and driver to line up to, if you like, oost him out of that little spot that he's got at the top of the championship.
Sure, well, it was nice to see Sebastian, even if we couldn't hear him, and two men who will be hoping to see a lot of him in this race, Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button. If you're wondering the gap between second and fourth on the grid, it's not a lot.
Let's take a look at this 3.44-mile, 15-turn Sepang circuit from the wheel of two McLarens during qualifying. On the right-hand side, Jenson Button. On the left, Lewis Hamilton. The differences are very subtle but crucial for grid position. Over 190 miles an hour heading down the pit straight towards turn 1. And look, Jenson, much wider, much further over to the left. He's opening up the corner. Down to just 68 miles an hour for the apex. And the payback here for Jenson is that he's got a later apex. He can straighten the car nicely and get on the power slightly earlier. Turn 2's a similar line. Lewis locks his left front, but no problem. Away they go. In turn 3, Jenson still feeling the need to use more of the tarmac available. 175 miles an hour heading up towards turn 4. And again, Jenson further left. He's giving himself a better chance, minimising the angle of this 75 mile an hour turn 4 corner, and uses more space through the exit. Turns 5 and 6, 155 miles an hour, spookily similar. The engine's virtually synchronised, absolutely beautiful. 180 miles an hour towards turns 7 and 8. 170 through here. They link them up, making effectively one corner. And now they're very similar in their approach to the racetrack. It begins to change. Heavy braking for turn 9. And it's Lewis now hitting all the sweet spots on the racetrack. Jensen said, I overused my tyres in the middle part of the lap. Maybe he pushed them harder on the outlap too. As we head towards turn 11, again, Lewis starts to take the wider line into the corner as Jensen feels less grip and confidence. And the payback here for Lewis is he smack on the apex, right in the groove where the grip is. Towards the wonderful turn 12, 160 miles an hour, flat out, left-hander, a very similar line through there. 13 is the approach to the braking zone for turn 14. And Lewis turns in very early. Jensen on the right-hand side, the more classic wide approach. Lewis never makes the apex, will be slightly later on the throttle. That may well have cost him pole position. He's still ahead of Jensen though on the lap overall. It's an 11-second full throttle run towards the final corner. Braking on the extreme right-hand side. But look, as they turn in, Jensen has to straighten the steering wheel to counteract the back-end sliding, the oversteer. Meanwhile, Lewis is right on the apex, as sweet as you like, early on the throttle, stays to the right-hand side, over the line for second on the grid. Jensen, 3/10 behind, a disappointed fourth.
Fascinating there to see exactly how a driver has to change his driving style as the tyres go away from him. Jensen Button so precise early on in that lap, and tyres are going to be a big talking point in this race. If it rains, very few teams have run on the wet or the intermediate tyres. They've got no idea what the crossover point is between the two or how much grip they get even. However, if they stay on the slick tyres, on the hard or the soft tyres, it's going to be equally confusing for them. Now, Eddie, explain what you've got in that very nice coffee cup there.
Well, first of all, it's not a cup of coffee. It is, in fact, the marbles. Everybody talks about the marbles, and we'll give you an idea. This was easy. This was a bucket and spade. We just went out to a car and swept up a few of these things. These are big, big chunks of parts of the tyre. The tyre, just as a matter of interest, Jake, it's made up of the construction, which is the sidewall, and then the compound, which is the actual thing that touches the ground. The tyres, these tyres, I believe, were so soft that they just threw pieces off, because when they contact and they want to grip, pieces of tyres fly off. Hence why drivers hate driving over the marbles. So a nice clean run is where they want to be on the track.
What they've actually done here is changed pole position from the left of the grid to the right to avoid the man on pole having to start on top of marbles. What's it like when a driver goes offline, because we all want to see overtaking in Formula One, and when they go offline they go straight onto this? What's the reaction that the car has?
It's a similar, you never know. You have a drying track, for example, which is the track, we'll say in a rain situation where a track is drying. It's exactly the same. The quick car is on the dryish line, and when he goes offline it's wetter, less grip, more instability. It's exactly the same, and this is what it creates.
And we're expecting the soft tyres to last sort of 8 or 10 laps, somewhere in that region. How important is it for the drivers when they start today's race, which is just a matter of minutes away now, to be conservative on those tyres, to give them the opportunity to push when they need to and last a bit longer?
Well, they're not going to think about that in the first couple of laps, because they will be pushing so hard for position, so they will absolutely kill the tyres at the first couple of laps. That's the last thing in their mind. They think about track position. When they calm down, then they will think about conserving and making sure they don't put too much heat into the tyres, because heat is a killer for these tyres, and hence that's why you've got so much of these marbles around the place. Heat and speed and timing, they don't match.
Okay, well, let's have a look at what's happening then, not here in the paddock, but out around all the rest of the grid. So there's the track, and you can see actually, Eddie, just how hazy it is there. What's quite important is to remind people that it's an awful lot cooler here today than it was yesterday, and here in Malaysia, as we feel small drops of rain on our hands and on our heads, it's indicative of rain, isn't it?
It is, and look, you can see, I shudder to think what we're going to be in here in a couple of minutes' time, but as of we've seen this cloud for the last half an hour, and we've been expecting it for a half an hour, and it hasn't come. Let's hope we can be that lucky and it'll just stay up there and avoid us for once.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting race if it doesn't rain. It's going to be unpredictable if it does. Just explain the thinking of the smaller teams on a day like this.
They'll be praying for rain. Absolutely, there is no better little ingredient to mix the old pot up, and they will be hoping, because the big teams, they can't analyse this, they haven't got the guarantee of it, and they are scrambling around as much as anyone else. And for the smaller team at the back, they should go in a different strategy to those at the front.
Okay, and you're on pole position in a Grand Prix, and you have to speak to the Malaysian Prime Minister, talk about not being able to get your head in gear. Very quickly, one-word answer, give us a winner for the Malaysia Grand Prix.
I think it'll be the same as, one word, sorry, I'll have to give you that, Vettel.
I should remember that you and one word don't go hand in hand. OK, Eddie, thank you very much. So, no rain at the moment, but just to reiterate, as Paul Hembry from Pirelli Tyres chats to Christian Horner, rain expected perhaps within the next 10 minutes, but not in the next few minutes. OK, time to join Martin and David for race 2 of the 2011 season. And as ever, when Formula 1 comes to town, the focus is on the cars and the focus is on what's above them.